Hello and welcome to this episode of Demystifying DAX with me, James from Matador Software. As you can see, we have our usual boilerplate stuff. We have our dynamic greeting within DAX at the top of our dashboard, a brief explanation of what we're going to do, and I've created some very small 10 lines of mock supply chain data, and we're going to demonstrate how we can count these rows with DAX and calculate specific transactions by their respective country. Now these rows, the shipping ID, each of these is a unique transaction in itself. So if we come to an issue where we have several rows of data, or several thousands of rows of data, and we want to calculate the transaction, we can do that very simply by just using the COUNTROWS function within DAX. So the Microsoft documentation on DAX COUNTROWS and the specific function is actually very clear. We're counting the number of rows in a table essentially, and we return a whole number. The remarks, count the number of rows on a base table, more often is used to count the number of rows from filtering a table. Great, we need that. Whenever there are no rows to aggregate, it returns a blank, fine. Also what's important to note here is that, as it said, using best practices, count rows can actually be more efficient than count, which you wouldn't expect as it's iterating through a whole table, but it is, and it's more efficient. So when we can use this, we should. So now we can create our initial measure, and this is going to be a simple one. So what we're going to tell Power BI to do, we're going to say we want to see the number of transactions, because this actually will show us the number of shipments that we've sent as a company and received, obviously. So to do that, we just simply can count the rows, because each shipping ID is an individual transaction. We're saying count the rows in the shipping data table, and if we add a card, we can see if this reflects correctly. And what we should see is there are 10 rows of data, which means that we have 10 transactions. So we'll give this card a bit of formatting. Like I say, we always want to stick to a few colors within our color scheme. We have this sort of navy, white and gold, and we'll hit the Control-C, Control-V, the copy and paste of the cards, so that we're ready when we have our new measure set up, our more advanced example. We can just pop this into the card and we'll hold the same formatting as the card above with the white and gold. Alright, so looking at a more complex example, let's say we want to use COUNTROWS, and we could have hundreds of thousands of rows of data. And let's say we want to see the nationwide shipments. So they start in the UK and they end up in the UK. That's the origin country and the destination. Well, we could use DAX COUNTROWS to enable us to do this also. So let's say we want to create a measure called national shipments. And it's important, like I always say within DAX, to really space out your code, structure it and make it readable. It'll help you down the line, and it'll also help other developers who may jump on board. So we can wrap our COUNTROWS function within calculate, and this will enable us to iterate through a few different areas of our table and get the exact information that we're looking for. So what we're saying within our DAX is we want to count the rows within the shipping data, but we also want to see the origin country present as the UK and also the destination country present as the UK. And we'll write a little comment here as well, just to remind ourselves that uppercase and lowercase in this instance actually doesn't matter. It's not going to affect the outcome, and the measure will function as normal. So if we pull these national shipments into a card, we correctly see that we have 4 rows of data within these national shipments, which is correct. You can see we have 4 lines where UK is present in both sides. Now let's say that we want to change this up slightly and we want to show, let's say, international shipments from the UK. But we can actually modify our DAX code and do this again and we could say where the origin country is present as the UK, and let's say the destination country is present as the USA. And we could do this in so many different ways, but it's important to remember the power of the count rows, especially when we wrap it within this calculate. So again, this will come into its own when we have lots of rows of data to iterate through, but there's a lot of power here. As usual, if you enjoyed this content or found it helpful, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you.